Star Wars Resistance premiered yesterday with a double-length episode titled The Recruit. Today I'll break down and review our first real look at the show, its premise, the characters, its tone, and so on. First, let's address the timeline. It's supposed to begin about 6 months before the events of The Force Awakens. That places it after the first 25 issues of the Poe Dameron comic. Basically, Poe and Black Squadron find Lor San Tekka, who goes off to search for some clues about Luke, and then Poe meets Kaz shortly after. So nothing we see here will interfere with Poe or BB-8's existing story. By the way, that explains why Poe isn't flying his black X-Wing this episode, because it was severely damaged in the 23rd issue of the comic. Okay, and last thing before getting into the actual episode, but since we're on the topic, I thought Oscar Isaac was really great during his limited screen time. The opening scene involves Kaz and 2 other New Republic pilots on a mission to deliver some intelligence to the Resistance. That's a nice reminder that while Leia is considered to be a paranoid extremist, the New Republic hasn't completely written her off. They are covertly offering support, and Hux says as much in The Force Awakens. Right off the bat, we get to see some dogfighting between what I assume are T-85 X-Wings and the First Order TIE Interceptor piloted by Major Von Reg. On top of the ships, we get to see new flight suits. The red First Order suit is about what you'd expect, but I'm glad we're finally getting to see some details about the New Republic. I hope we'll see more of them in the future. Kaz impresses Poe with some creative tactics, so he's offered a position in the Resistance. He's hesitant at first, saying his father, who is a senator, wouldn't approve. I get the feeling the Resistance are like the bad boys of the New Republic. Off the books, covert operations, parents don't approve of them, that kind of thing. It's clear Kaz wants to prove himself outside of his father's influence. The brief interaction we see between the two of them makes it pretty obvious Kaz grew up privileged with a lot of help from his parents, and now he wants to see who he is on his own. Poe takes him to Colossus Station on the planet Castellon, where he's meant to keep his ear to the ground to see if he can learn anything about First Order movements. The intelligence delivered by the New Republic confirms, at least to the Resistance, that the First Order is preparing for a full-scale attack on the galaxy. A less than reputable transport hub on the edge of wild space is a good place to try and learn more. Poe calls in a favor with an old rebel pilot friend named Yeager, who agrees to let Kaz work undercover as a mechanic for his team. I imagine Yeager knew Poe's parents, Shera and Kez. A misunderstanding leads to Kaz quickly and accidentally making a name for himself as a great pilot, and he winds up entering a race against Tora Doza, another young pilot and daughter to the manager of Colossus Station. Yeager's crew get an old junker of a ship in the air, and Kaz does prove himself to be a worthy pilot. He doesn't win the race, but he earns some respect from the citizens of the station. Meanwhile, Major Von Reg returns to an incomplete Starkiller base where much of the First Order has gathered. I thought The Recruit was a pretty solid first episode. It establishes the premise well, giving Kaz a double life that he now has to balance. There wasn't much in the way of spying this time around, it was more about settling into the new location, learning the culture of Colossus Station, and then the racing. When we first saw trailers for the show, I thought the animation looked great when it came to ships and racing, and I still think that's true. The racing sequences were very exciting. I was less sure about the character animations, but by the end of this episode, I was past it. People have also been worried that the tone would be overly childish. Yes, some of it is over-the-top humor for kids, but more of the jokes landed for me than I was expecting, and it's not as relentless as the first trailer suggests. I do think Star Wars Rebels prepared me well for this show. If you go in expecting The Recruit to be similar to Spark of Rebellion, you'll probably be pleasantly surprised. I actually think this was a better first episode than Rebels had, because we at least have some familiar characters to help set the stage as opposed to all new characters on a brand new planet. That said, of the characters we've met so far, the only one I'm really intrigued by is Yeager. We haven't spent a lot of time with the other side characters, and let's be honest, Kaz is a lot to take in. Clumsy, goofy, and so on. But this is his story. Like Ezra, we're going to watch him grow up and learn. What threw me off a little bit is that Kaz basically acts like young Ezra despite being quite a few years older, but I think it's interesting to compare two characters that grew up under very different circumstances. Ezra had to grow up on an Outer Rim planet without a family under the oppression of the Empire. Kaz grew up on a core world with a wealthy family during peacetime. If we assume Resistance follows a similar trajectory as Star Wars Rebels, I think Kaz will quickly begin to face more mature threats and themes in the first season. In fact, I think the stage is already set for some heavy stuff to happen. Series producer Justin Ridge said in an interview with Brian Young on sci-fi.com that the show will overlap with The Force Awakens. In another interview, series writer and producer Brandon Auman told Jeremy Conrad on BleedingCool.com that Kaz grew up wealthy on Hosnian Prime. I think it's pretty likely that Kaz's friends in the New Republic Navy, along with his family, will be killed by Starkiller Base, and what's more, there's a high chance he'll see it happen. Like I said, the show starts in peacetime. Things are going to be lighthearted for now, but I don't expect it to stay that way. I think the stakes will be raised by the end of the season, opening up to a larger world for Season 2, just like Star Wars Rebels. That works for me. I can be patient, because in the meantime, I see this offering a lot of fun and value to the younger viewers. Before I wrap up, I thought it would be fun to mention some of the smaller details or Easter eggs I caught. The Arabesh on the side of Kaz's X-Wing reads Republic Navy. The character Bolza Gruul has a tattoo of the Black Sun insignia on his right arm. I assume that means he used to work for the Criminal Syndicate, or maybe he still does. This also kind of mirrors Kira having a similar Crimson Dawn mark on her arm in Solo: A Star Wars Story. During the races, you might recognize the voice of the racing announcer as Greg Proops, who also provided the voice for Fode during the pod race in The Phantom Menace. I'm sure there were more fun hidden details that I missed, so if you caught any, leave them in the comments, and let me know what you thought of the episode. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.